everybody. This is ripping off the Band-Aid and going from only Zoom and remote to 200 people and 10 clients coming to Vermont today. So I actually am sad because I will not be able to stay for the rest of the presentations. I know I'll be missing a bunch. So I'm really thrilled to be here in person with real humans. As with many other businesses, the pandemic really, as you can imagine, impacted Mamava. But it's thanks to many people, some of whom are here tonight, that we are still standing and even thriving during these really difficult couple of years. So I'm so thankful for Yeko and Bethany and all the great work that you do and for creating this forum. And I'm so proud of the entrepreneurial world here in Vermont. So you gotta bear with me because I'm definitely out of practice. So as an entrepreneur, your business is your baby, and it maybe won't surprise you that one of my favorite films is Raising Arizona. If you haven't seen it, go home tonight and watch it. And one of the funniest scenes is when, after kidnapping Nathan Jr., Hai grabs the copy of Dr. Spock and gives it to Ed. Here's the instructions manual. And of course, just like parenting, there is no instructions manual for running your business and no one way to raise your baby. So I thought I would use this presentation as a way to reflect on how far my baby, Mamava, has come and share some of the lessons we have learned along the way that might be helpful as you navigate your own entrepreneurial journeys. The moment of conception. So hopefully, if you're lucky enough, you have had an aha moment for your business and that spark that starts the whole idea. And with me, there literally was this unmissable moment. It was actually a headline in the New York Times. I was home visiting my parents for Labor Day weekend. So it's Labor Day, there's an article. I'm actually nursing my second child and reading this headline about how a two-class system had emerged around breastfeeding, where women like myself with autonomy in a job and a supportive employer was able to meet her breastfeeding goals. But many, many other women did not have the same privilege, and really how breastfeeding and nursing, this fundamental human right, had become a privilege and it wasn't a right. And I had seen it before in my own life with colleagues who maybe weren't able to breastfeed because they were receptionists, for instance, and didn't have a private office, or heard stories from my husband about, he's a teacher in the middle school, and how his colleagues weren't able to find a space to pump or the break time to do it. And you'll also note that Jodi Kantor, she is one of the journalists behind the Me Too movement. So we'll circle back to that later. But this struck a chord with me. And I had definitely had my own challenges in terms of breastfeeding. I did have to go visit my clients across the country, and I was often using my breast pump, like in that video, places designed for the exact opposite function, like restrooms. And it was a really demoralizing experience to be away from my family and sitting in a bathroom stall. And I just thought there has to be a better way. I complained about this to anyone who would listen. So this was the aha moment. Labor Day weekend, breastfeeding my baby. It was like a movie when the billboards on the highway start talking directly to the main character, and like all the signs are there, and that I needed to do something, and it was just undeniable. And I started working on it actually that afternoon. So when you're first pregnant, there's often a question about when to share your news with others, and I'm a pretty private person. So when I was pregnant, I liked having something that was just mine and my husband's. But I think there was also something about not wanting to disappoint others if the pregnancy didn't work out. So if your business idea is like a baby, you might be inclined to hold it a secret as well until you're absolutely ready to share it until it's perfect. But we know that progress is so much better than perfection, and it's a key tenet of what we do at Mamava. And I'm here to tell you that that's the exact wrong approach for starting a business. You're going to need your network to help support what you're trying to do. And that's why Womenpreneurs is so great. You immediately have hundreds of doulas and their network standing by to help fuel and improve your idea, or in some cases, help you realize maybe it wasn't such a great idea after all, and that is also okay. So, overwhelmed with raising 2 young kids and working my day job as a brand strategist, it took me 2 years to even bring the idea of a freestanding lactation space to the design studio colleagues where I work, and Michael Jagger, the creative director and owner of Solidarity of Unbridled Labor. I found an ally and co-founder within the company, Christine Dodson, who was the complementary, practical, systems-oriented left brain to my very right brain creative orientation. And another reminder, if you can figure it out, 2 brains are better than 1, especially if they are complementary to each other. So this gestation period was years long, as we needed to prioritize our client work over this pet project of a lactation suite. But this gave us the time and the room for experimentation, to share the idea with collaborators and clients and improve the concept. We developed a brand and full positioning and a tagline before we had a product, because that's the business we were in. So you can see some of these early iterations. Actually, those manila folders are some my dad did. My dad's a sculptor, and he came up with them. It could be a fold-out thing, like not practical in places with earthquakes. So one of the most important things about the gestational period is that it gave us the time for the market to be ready as well. So you can have a great idea, but if the market's not ready. So in 2010, a provision under the Affordable Care Act, which is Obamacare, mandated that most employers must provide break time for nursing parents in a place other than a bathroom to express breast milk. So that's when our business case was made. So, this is another 4 years since that first aha moment. So 7 long years after, almost to the day after the original aha moment, sorry, bad at math, we placed our first prototype in the Burlington International Airport, and the Free Press reported on the story, which got picked up nationally and internationally. All we had was a rudimentary website and a phone number. So Christine and I were still working full-time at the design studio, but the interest and energy for the idea was indisputable. We got calls from parents wanting to support us, manufacturers wanting to build the units, and most importantly, a few customers wanting to buy them. But one prototype does not a business make. We were fully dilated, the baby was crowning, and it was going to soon be time to push. Let me talk about labor. We had found a manufacturer in Springfield, Vermont, a family-owned cabinetry company that had recently been purchased by a New Jersey-based group that did work for big retailers across the country. We placed deposits on the first 20 units. The new owner was really excited about Mamava and wanted to partner to bring the product to market. We flew to New Jersey to discuss a 50-50 partnership where we would market and they would help fund, manufacture, and sell the product using their sales team, which included the son of the original owner who stayed on with the business in Vermont. So they had what we didn't have, and it all seemed to make sense. Except the Friday before Mother's Day, 2014, I was commuting home from work when I got a call from that sales rep. He told me I might want to pull over, and then proceeded to share the news that the new owner had just been arrested by the FBI at his Jersey City office and was under indictment for securities fraud. The inventory we had paid deposits for was now locked in escrow in Springfield. I love this feedback. It's so much better than Zoom. It's so much better than Zoom. Like I do this in Zoom and they're like, what? Anyone who has had a baby knows you should have a labor and birth plan, and also knows you should be prepared for it to go out the window, because it will. We were now not only out of a manufacturer, but our primary plan for funding the business and selling the units was gone. As I drove home on the highway, I wondered what the cosmic billboards were trying to tell me now, given it was Mother's Day weekend. I didn't have the heart to break the news to Christine and Michael until Monday. I have found as a mother and a CEO, sometimes you have to shoulder all the burden to protect those around you. What's the most important thing to remember when you're in labor? Remember to breathe. That's right. Of course, I wouldn't be standing here if we hadn't survived this setback and many, many others. The next 2 years represented a protracted labor common to many early businesses. We were creating a whole new category, a mission-based business that included both the architecture of the pods, but also a mobile app. From our own experience, we knew that airports represented a pain point for traveling parents and would also serve as important pollinators for our idea, as both parents and potential customers would be able to see the units. So we approached Seventh Generation, who was a client of the design studio and another mission-based Vermont business. And Seventh Generation also understood that not only the value of the initial publicity they might have to sponsor the units, but also the media targeting the parents who would see those units for the 2 years that they were in the airport. So we put a plan together to have Seventh Generation pay us to produce units that would then go into all of the New York City airports. So after months of negotiation, if you can imagine anything more bureaucratic than the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, combine that with the media companies who own the contracts for advertising on anything in the airports, both JCDecaux and Clear Channel, who have 10-year contracts with those facilities. We figured it all out and we cut a deal. So the baby had finally really officially arrived. And I think there was maybe 8 units or so that went in at that time. Parenthood. The next few years consisted of taking on venture funding, building an amazing team, all of our systems, our product line, and having enough learning and advice to share with you for 20 more of these presentations. We are a business made for people who go out in the world. We rely on our pods in high-traffic public places like airports and stadiums to generate sales leads. So as the pandemic descended, with no one traveling and many parents staying home for work, I wasn't sure we would survive. As evidence, this slide demonstrates the massive impact that the pandemic had on our business. You can see that halfway through March, we closed our doors for in-person work on Friday the 13th, 2020. All of that momentum we had built just fell off a cliff, just collapsed. And this was just one data point of the users on our app. Inbound sales leads came to a screeching halt, and contracts with major accounts were broken. We were kept alive by the hard work of our team, a sales pipeline created prior to the pandemic, and government contracts and some work with essential businesses like warehousing and the military and healthcare. But slowly for surely, we are building the business back, and I'm happy to share that in April, we had the highest number of uses on our app ever. And birth rates rose for the first time by 1% in 2021, which they weren't expected to do. We had this big argument about whether it was going to be a baby boom or a bust, and met somewhere halfway in the middle. So that was the first increase since 2018, and parents are needing our pods, and our work continues. Does anybody watch Broad City? Yes. So I'm like a major Alana Glazer fan, which is my husband thinks is really weird, and a Broad City fan. So I watched the whole thing practically in the last couple months. So recently, Alana Glazer from Broad City gave us a shout out, and literally Alana has been on like my Mamava vision board since she had her baby, and I was like, oh, the universe is listening. And in this really beautiful full circle moment, Jodi Kantor, the journalist who wrote that original article, responded to Alana's feed. Those Mamava pods at the airport are a rite of passage and very, very dear to me. I'll tell you a story about them when we next meet. I'm gonna go to that coffee date though. Like, why aren't I? We're kind of friends with Jodi, but not quite with Alana, but that's like the next goal. So we have a blessing that we say when one of our colleagues has a baby, and we have a very high birth rate at Mamava. In about 6 years, we've had 12 births to staffers, and in that time, there was only about 30 employees. So you guys can do the percentage math. And as I was thinking about entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs' business or brands and how it really is like their baby, I was thinking this blessing can apply to your businesses. Because when you start a business, you have a responsibility to it. You dream about it, what it will be when it grows up. You will require a community of people to care for it. And ultimately, there will be a lot that is out of your control. A good parent prepares their child to grow up and someday leave the nest. So I leave you by sharing a slightly modified version of this blessing for your businesses. May they eat when they are hungry and sleep when they are tired. May they explore without boundaries, but know they always have a home to return to. May they feel the joy of giving love and the responsibility of receiving it. May you and your colleagues have the wisdom to guide your company and the patience to learn from your mistakes. May you have the strength to protect your company and the courage to sacrifice in order to build a better world. And may your company inspire others to do great things in that better world. Thank you.